Have you ever found yourself seething with anger, only to feel exhausted and regretful afterward? Why does anger have such a strong grip on us, even when we know it doesn't help? What if you could break free from this cycle and live with a sense of calm and peace? Imagine not letting anything disturb your inner tranquility. Wouldn't that be amazing? In today's world, anger often seems like a natural response to stress, frustration, and even everyday annoyances. But is it truly necessary? Is holding on to anger worth the mental and emotional toll it takes on your life? The truth is, Buddhism offers profound insights into the nature of anger and how to let go of it for good. Think about a time when you were angry. Maybe it was over a small misunderstanding or a bigger life challenge. What if, instead of holding on to that anger, you could transform it into something that empowers you? The teachings of Buddhism show us how to not only release anger, but also find freedom in the process. It's not just about controlling your emotions. It's about understanding them, accepting them, and finally letting them go. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, where we explore the transformative power of Buddhist wisdom. If you're ready to change your relationship with anger, stay with us. This video will take you step by step on a journey toward peace and happiness. But before we dive deeper into this life-changing path, I need to ask you something. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of viewers subscribe. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring you more valuable content like this. Now, let's begin. The first step in erasing anger for good is understanding it. You'll soon see that with the right mindset and practice, you can free yourself from its chains. So, how can we start the process of erasing anger? Keep watching, and let's find out together. Understanding anger, the roots and causes in Buddhism. Anger is something that everyone experiences at some point in life. Whether it's triggered by someone's words, an injustice, or something that didn't go the way we hoped, it feels like a powerful wave inside us. But have you ever asked yourself, why does anger arise in the first place? Is it something we can control, or does it control us? In Buddhism, anger is not seen as a random or isolated feeling. It has roots that go deep, shaped by our attachments, our desires, and our fears. When we look at anger through the lens of Buddhist teachings, we begin to understand that anger is not something that just happens. It's the result of mental and emotional patterns that have been cultivated over time. By understanding these roots, we can begin to unravel the grip anger has on us. One of the key teachings in Buddhism is that all suffering arises from craving or attachment. This craving isn't just about wanting material things. It's also about our desires for things to go the way we want, when we want them. When things don't align with our expectations, we feel frustration, and that frustration turns into anger. In this way, anger becomes a natural response to the gap between reality and what we think should happen. Take a moment and think about a situation where you felt angry. Was it because something or someone didn't meet your expectations? Maybe it was a friend who let you down, a situation at work that frustrated you, or a plan that didn't unfold as you had hoped. At that moment, your mind was caught in the desire for things to go according to your plan, and when they didn't, anger arose. In Buddhism, this craving is also connected to our sense of self, the ego. We want to feel validated, respected, and in control. When something challenges this sense of self, we become defensive, and anger serves as a form of protection. The deeper the attachment we have to our ideas, beliefs, or self-image, the stronger the anger can be when those things are threatened. Now, let's talk about a subtle but important aspect of anger that many don't realize. It often arises from fear. Yes, fear. Fear that we're not in control. Fear that something important is slipping away. Fear that we'll be hurt or rejected. All these fears, whether conscious or unconscious, can ignite anger as a way of defending ourselves. When we understand that fear often fuels anger, it becomes easier to see how they are intertwined. Another layer to understanding anger in Buddhism is the concept of ignorance. Anger doesn't arise in a vacuum. It is born from ignorance, a misunderstanding of reality. We often think we know what's best, or that we have control over every situation, but the truth is, the world is unpredictable. When we grasp tightly to our limited views and try to control everything around us, we create conditions for anger to grow. The Buddha taught that true wisdom comes from understanding the impermanence of life, that everything is always changing, and nothing lasts forever. When we understand this, we start to realize that nothing, no person or situation, has the power to cause us lasting pain unless we let it. Anger, then, is like a storm. It rises up quickly, clouds our judgment, and leaves us feeling drained and unsettled. But like any storm, it eventually passes. The key is not to feed the storm, not to keep adding fuel to the fire. This is where Buddhist practices come in. By developing mindfulness, we begin to notice the first stirrings of anger before it takes control. We learn to recognize the thoughts and beliefs that trigger it. We begin to see that anger is not who we are. It's simply an emotion that comes and goes. When we see anger as temporary, just like the storm, we can avoid being swept away by it. The Buddha also taught that there are different types of anger. There's the outward, explosive kind of anger, the kind where you shout, yell, or act out. Then there's the more subtle, inward kind of anger, the silent resentment or bitterness that we carry inside. Both types can cause harm, but often the quieter form is more insidious because it lingers, poisoning our peace of mind over time. This is why understanding the roots of anger is so important. If we can catch the subtle signs of anger early, we can prevent it from building into something bigger. Understanding the roots of anger helps us see that it's not just about the immediate situation or person that caused us to feel angry. It's about the deeper, underlying causes within our minds. When we begin to recognize these causes, we can start to loosen their grip. We can learn to let go of the attachments, the fears, and the ignorance that feed anger. And in doing so, we create more space for peace and clarity to enter our lives. Now, let's look at how Buddhism offers specific tools to deal with anger. The first step is awareness, noticing when anger arises without judgment. This can be challenging at first, especially when emotions are strong, but it's a powerful practice. The moment we recognize anger, we have a choice: to let it take over or to pause and examine it. We can ask ourselves, why am I angry? What is this anger trying to tell me? What is the deeper need that is not being met? These questions can help us go beyond the surface level of anger and explore its deeper causes. Another powerful tool in Buddhism is the practice of equanimity, developing an even-minded, calm response to all situations, whether good or bad. Equanimity is not about suppressing our emotions or pretending to be unaffected. It's about cultivating a peaceful and balanced mind that remains undisturbed by the ups and downs of life. With equanimity, we can experience anger without being overwhelmed by it. We can feel the emotion, acknowledge it, and let it pass, without letting it define us or dictate our actions. The Buddha also emphasized the importance of loving kindness, metta, and compassion, karuna, in overcoming anger. When we cultivate these qualities, both for ourselves and others, we begin to see that all beings are struggling in their own ways. Anger often arises when we feel wronged, but when we develop compassion, we begin to understand that everyone has their own challenges and fears. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it allows us to respond with more understanding and less judgment. In summary, the Buddhist approach to understanding anger is rooted in the awareness of its causes: attachment, desire, fear, and ignorance. By recognizing these roots, we can start to free ourselves from the hold that anger has on us. It's not something that happens to us, but something that arises from within us. And by transforming the mind, we can transform our experience of anger. The next step is not just to understand anger, but to begin the process of letting it go. But first, we must be aware of it and the deeper forces that feed it. Through mindfulness, loving kindness, and wisdom, we can begin to shift the patterns of anger and move toward a life of greater peace and clarity. The consequences of anger. A Buddhist perspective. Anger is a powerful emotion, one that can often feel uncontrollable, consuming every part of us. But have you ever stopped to ask, what does anger really do to us? The consequences of holding on to anger aren't just about the moments when we lash out or get upset. Anger has a far deeper impact on our mind, our body, and our relationships. And Buddhism teaches us that these effects can stretch far beyond the immediate moment. First, let's think about how anger affects the mind. Have you ever noticed how when you're angry, your thoughts become clouded? It's as if the entire world around you disappears, and all you can focus on is your frustration. Buddhist teachings refer to this as mental affliction. Anger distorts our perceptions, making us see things in a way that isn't clear or rational. It can create confusion and misunderstanding, and often, it makes us believe that the source of our anger is outside ourselves, that it's because of someone else or some external event. But the truth, according to Buddhism, is that the seed of anger is within us. It grows when we allow it to, and it's nourished by our attachments, expectations, and desires. This is where the Buddhist practice of mindfulness comes in. By becoming more aware of our emotions in the moment, we begin to notice when anger is rising. And when we catch it early, we can choose not to feed it. But without awareness, anger takes hold. It can consume our thoughts, leading us down a path where all we can think about is what's wrong, who's to blame, and how we can get even. But here's the thing, anger doesn't just cloud the mind. It also affects the body. Have you ever felt your heart race, your muscles tighten, or your breath become shallow when you're angry? These physical changes are not just random. They're part of the body's natural response to stress. When we hold on to anger, our body stays in a state of heightened tension. Over time, this can lead to chronic stress, headaches, muscle pain, and even more serious health problems. Buddhist teachings on the body remind us that our physical health and mental state are deeply interconnected. When we allow anger to persist, it takes a toll on both. And the impact doesn't stop with us. Anger ripples out into our relationships. Think about how you act when you're angry. Do you snap at people? Do you withdraw? Or say things you don't mean? Anger creates distance between us and others. It clouds our ability to communicate and connect. In Buddhism, there's a concept called right speech. It's about speaking with kindness, truth, and understanding. But when we're angry, it's hard to speak in a way that aligns with this principle. Our words become harsh, and our tone becomes sharp. Instead of building bridges, we destroy them. Moreover, anger often creates a cycle. When we express anger towards someone else, it doesn't just affect that person. It affects us too. We feel the weight of our words and actions, and sometimes that regret can be just as painful as the initial anger. But the other person also feels hurt, and they may respond with anger of their own, creating a back and forth that spirals out of control. In Buddhist philosophy, this cycle of harm and suffering is called samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, but also the cycle of suffering. The more we give in to anger, the more we trap ourselves in this cycle, unable to break free. Another consequence of anger is its ability to blind us to the bigger picture. When we are consumed by anger, we lose sight of the present moment. Our mind is trapped in the past, replaying the incident over and over again, or it's imagining the future, trying to figure out how to get revenge or fix things. Either way, we're not living in the here and now. And this is something Buddhism emphasizes, the importance of mindfulness and being present. When we're consumed by anger, we miss out on the beauty of the present moment. We're too busy holding on to the past or worrying about what's to come. And in doing so, we miss the opportunity to cultivate peace, joy, and contentment. The Buddha once said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. This powerful image highlights the futility of holding on to anger. When we stay angry, we're the ones who suffer. The person we're angry with might not even know, or they might not care, but we carry that anger inside us, allowing it to poison our mind, body, and spirit. It's a burden that we choose to carry, even though we don't have to. So, what can we do about it? Buddhism offers a path of liberation from the chains of anger. The first step is recognizing its presence. Awareness is key. The next step is understanding that we have the power to let it go. Anger doesn't define us. It's just an emotion, one that comes and goes, just like all other emotions. But when we learn to let go of it, we find freedom. Freedom from the pain, the suffering, and the weight it places on our hearts. And the key to letting go is compassion. Compassion for ourselves and others. When we cultivate compassion, anger no longer has the same power over us. We begin to see others with understanding, realizing that they too are suffering in their own way. We begin to see the world as it truly is, imperfect, yes, but also full of opportunities for love, connection, and peace. In Buddhism, There's a practice known as loving-kindness meditation, or metta. This practice involves sending out thoughts of love, peace, and goodwill to ourselves and others, including those we might be angry with. It's a way of softening the heart and replacing anger with understanding. It's about shifting our perspective from one of resentment to one of compassion and care. When we can do this, we begin to break the cycle of anger and suffering. The consequences of anger are real and far-reaching. But the good news is, we don't have to let it control us. Through mindfulness, understanding, and compassion, we can begin to release the grip anger has on us. The first step is simply to acknowledge its presence, and the second is to choose a different way. A way of peace, of freedom, and of true happiness. And as we do, we start to experience the transformative power of letting go. Mindfulness and self-awareness, tools to recognize anger. Anger often arises so quickly that we don't even notice it until it's already taken hold. One moment, we're calm, and the next, we're in a storm of emotions. But here's the truth. Anger doesn't appear out of nowhere. It starts as a small seed. Something triggers it, and without awareness, that small seed grows into a full-blown emotional outburst. So, how do we prevent this from happening? How do we catch the anger before it takes over? The answer lies in mindfulness and self-awareness. Mindfulness, as taught in Buddhism, means being fully present in the moment. It's the ability to observe your thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations without reacting to them right away. Imagine you're sitting in a room, and a loud noise suddenly makes you jump. The first response is instinctive. You react without thinking. But with mindfulness, you would pause for a moment, observe your reaction, and then choose how to respond. The same applies to anger. When something triggers you, instead of immediately reacting with frustration or irritation, you can pause, recognize the emotion, and decide how to handle it. This pause is where the magic happens. By practicing mindfulness, we create space between the trigger and our reaction. And it's in this space that we can see things clearly. Let's say you're stuck in traffic and a driver cuts you off. The first impulse might be anger. But if you're mindful, you can notice the tightening in your chest, the tension in your hands, and the rapid thoughts racing through your mind. By simply observing, without judgment, you can realize, I'm starting to feel angry. Now, instead of being swept away by that anger, you can make a choice. Will you let it control you, or will you let it go? Self-awareness is the second piece of the puzzle. While mindfulness helps us stay present and notice our emotions in the moment, self-awareness helps us understand why those emotions arise. Self-awareness is the practice of looking inward and examining the root cause of our anger. It's about asking ourselves, what triggered this anger? What underlying fear or belief is making me react this way? Let's take a deeper look. Perhaps, when someone cuts you off in traffic, the anger isn't just about that one incident. Maybe it's connected to a deeper sense of feeling disrespected or unimportant. Maybe, in the past, you felt overlooked or dismissed, and this small action reminds you of those old wounds. Self-awareness allows you to connect the dots between your current feelings and past experiences, helping you see that your anger is not just about the present situation, but about something deeper. Understanding the root cause of your anger is a powerful way to reduce its hold on you. When you can see why you feel angry, you can begin to work with that feeling. You no longer react blindly to the world around you, but instead, you start to respond consciously. Instead of blaming others for making you angry, you take responsibility for your emotions and explore what they're teaching you. Mindfulness and self-awareness are closely linked, and together, they provide us with the tools to understand and control our emotions. These practices don't just help us with anger. They help us become more aware of all our emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. With consistent practice, we start to notice patterns in our reactions and gain more control over how we respond. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds great in theory, but how do I actually practice mindfulness and self-awareness in my daily life? The answer is simple: practice. Just like any other skill, mindfulness requires time and patience to develop. But the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Start by setting aside a few minutes each day to practice mindfulness. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. As thoughts and emotions arise, simply notice them without judgment. Don't try to push them away or engage with them. Just observe. Over time, you'll begin to develop a deeper awareness of your thoughts and emotions, and you'll find it easier to recognize when anger starts to arise. Throughout your day, practice mindfulness in small moments. When you're waiting in line at the grocery store, instead of letting your mind race or getting frustrated with the wait, focus on your breath. When you're having a conversation, listen deeply, without interrupting or reacting. When you feel triggered, take a moment to pause, observe, and check in with yourself. Ask yourself, what's going on inside me right now? This simple act of awareness can make all the difference. But mindfulness isn't just about observing your thoughts and emotions, it's also about letting go. As you practice, you'll notice that some emotions, like anger, have a tendency to cling to us. They stay with us long after the situation has passed. This is where self-awareness comes in again. By understanding the root causes of your anger, you can begin to let go of it more easily. For example, let's say you get into an argument with someone at work. In the moment, you feel angry, and maybe you hold on to that anger throughout the day, replaying the argument in your mind. But with self-awareness, you can ask yourself, why am I still holding on to this? What is it about this situation that's making me so upset? Maybe you realize that it's not just the argument itself, but the feeling of being disrespected. By understanding this, you can let go of the anger more easily, knowing that it's not helping you, and it's only hurting you in the long run. The combination of mindfulness and self-awareness can transform your relationship with anger. Instead of being controlled by it, you begin to take charge of your emotions. You become more in tune with your inner world, and as a result, your outer world begins to shift as well. You find that you react less, feel calmer, and approach life with a greater sense of peace. In Buddhism, the practice of mindfulness and self-awareness is not just a technique. It's a way of living. It's about being fully present in every moment, observing life as it is, without judgment or attachment. Through these practices, we can learn to let go of our anger and all the other emotions that cause suffering. And in doing so, we create a space for more love, compassion, and understanding to enter our lives. As you continue on this journey, remember that mindfulness and self-awareness are lifelong practices. There will be times when you forget to be mindful, times when anger takes over, but that's okay. What matters is your willingness to keep coming back to the present moment, to keep observing, to keep learning. Each time you practice, you're moving closer to the peace you seek. By cultivating these tools, you're not just learning how to manage anger. You're learning how to live a life of greater awareness, clarity, and inner freedom. The more you practice, the more you'll realize that anger doesn't have to control you. You have the power to recognize it, understand it, and let it go. And in doing so, you're freeing yourself from the chains of negative emotions and creating a life filled with peace and joy. Acceptance and detachment, key Buddhist practices. Anger can feel like a wildfire inside you. It grows quickly, consumes your thoughts, and leaves behind a trail of destruction. But what if there was a way to stop it from spreading, to put out that fire before it consumes you? What if you could face the same situations that usually make you angry with peace instead of rage? That is where acceptance and detachment come into play. These two Buddhist practices offer powerful tools to deal with anger and let go of it completely. Acceptance doesn't mean simply tolerating bad behavior or injustices. It's not about giving up or resigning yourself to unpleasant situations. Instead, acceptance is about acknowledging what is happening right now without judgment, without pushing it away, and without letting it disturb your peace of mind. It's about saying, this is the reality in this moment. I don't have to fight it, resist it, or get angry about it. I can be at peace with it. When we accept a situation as it is, we stop feeding the anger that comes from trying to change it or wishing it were different. For example, imagine you're stuck in traffic on a busy day. Your plans are being delayed, and frustration is building. Instead of letting anger grow, you can simply accept the situation. You could say, this is how it is right now, and there's nothing I can do about it in this moment. I can either be angry and upset, or I can choose to relax and let this moment pass. Acceptance allows you to let go of the need to control everything around you. When you realize that not everything is in your hands, you can stop fighting against the inevitable. This brings a sense of calm, knowing that you don't have to struggle with every little thing that happens. Life flows more easily when we accept what comes our way, even if it's not what we want. Now, let's talk about detachment. Detachment is closely related to acceptance, but it goes a step further. It's the ability to recognize that we are not defined by our emotions or circumstances. Anger often arises because we identify too closely with our feelings. We think, I am angry. This situation is making me angry. But the truth is, you are not your anger. You are the one who experiences it, but it does not define you. Detachment is the practice of seeing things without getting entangled in them. Imagine you are watching a movie. The characters in the movie may experience anger, sadness, joy, or fear, but you remain a viewer, detached from their emotions. In the same way, detachment allows you to observe your emotions without becoming completely involved in them. When you practice detachment, you stop reacting to every situation as if it's a personal attack. You begin to see that the world does not revolve around you, and that your emotions don't have to control your actions. This doesn't mean that you stop caring, or that you become indifferent. It simply means that you let go of the need to cling to every emotion or reaction that arises. Instead of being swept away by anger, you choose to respond with calmness and clarity. In Buddhism, detachment also teaches us to let go of our attachment to desires, expectations, and outcomes. Often, we get angry because things don't go as we expect or want them to. We cling to the idea that life should unfold in a certain way, and when it doesn't, we feel upset. Detachment teaches us to release these expectations and understand that everything is impermanent. The traffic jam you're sitting in will eventually clear. The argument with your friend will pass. Nothing is permanent, not even the anger you feel. One of the most effective ways to practice detachment is through mindfulness. By being present in each moment and fully aware of your feelings without judgment, you can separate yourself from the emotions that arise. For instance, when you feel anger bubbling up, stop and notice it. Don't try to push it away, but also don't let it take over. Observe it as if it were a cloud passing through the sky. It's there, but it's not you. You are the sky, and the cloud will soon pass. Mindfulness helps you see the impermanence of your emotions. Anger, like all emotions, is fleeting. It will come, but it will also go. When you practice detachment, you learn to let it come and go without getting caught up in it. This gives you the freedom to respond to situations with a clear mind, not clouded by anger. To cultivate acceptance and detachment, start by applying these principles in small situations. You don't need to wait for a major challenge or conflict. In your daily life, notice when frustration or anger starts to rise, and practice accepting it without judgment. Try to observe your emotions as if they belong to someone else, rather than letting them define who you are. Over time, you will notice that you begin to react less to situations that once triggered your anger. You will become more aware of your feelings and better able to choose how you respond. Acceptance and detachment won't make your problems disappear, but they will allow you to face them with a calm and clear mind. They will help you transform your anger into an opportunity for growth and peace. Remember, the goal is not to suppress your anger or pretend it doesn't exist. Anger is a natural emotion, and it has its place. But when you accept it without judgment and detach from it, you give yourself the power to choose how you respond. You no longer need to be a slave to your anger. Instead, you can live with a peaceful heart, knowing that you are in control of your reactions. So the next time anger begins to rise, pause and ask yourself, can I accept this situation as it is? Can I let go of my attachment to how I think things should be? When you do, you will begin to experience a profound shift in your ability to handle life's challenges with grace and peace. This is the power of acceptance and detachment in the Buddhist path. It is not about avoiding or suppressing your emotions, but about understanding and releasing them. With practice, you will find that anger no longer has the hold it once did. You will become free. Cultivating compassion, the antidote to anger. Anger is a natural emotion that we all experience, but it's important to realize that it doesn't define who we are. It is simply a response to something happening outside of us or within our minds. The real challenge is in how we respond to anger, how we deal with it, and how we can transform it. One of the most powerful tools to dissolve anger is compassion. Now, you might wonder, what does compassion have to do with anger? Compassion is often seen as kindness or sympathy, but it's much deeper than that. It's the ability to understand the suffering of others and wish for them to be free of it. It's about seeing beyond your own hurt, beyond your own frustrations, and opening your heart to the struggles of others. When we practice compassion, we shift our focus from ourselves and our anger to the well-being of others. This shift in perspective is incredibly powerful in freeing us from anger's grip. In Buddhism, compassion is considered one of the highest virtues. It is a practice that begins with ourselves. To be truly compassionate towards others, we first need to be compassionate towards ourselves. How often do we allow ourselves to be angry, frustrated, or upset, and yet fail to show ourselves the same kindness we might show a friend or loved one? When we make compassion a part of our daily lives, we stop seeing anger as something that we must hold on to, and instead, we begin to see it as an opportunity to practice understanding and kindness. One simple way to start cultivating compassion is by engaging in loving-kindness meditation. This practice involves sitting quietly, focusing on your breath, and silently repeating phrases like, "May I be happy," "May I be healthy," "May I be safe." These phrases are meant to bring warmth and love to yourself. Once you've cultivated this feeling within, you extend it outward. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe. With time, you'll begin to see that anger doesn't serve you. Compassion does. Compassion helps us see that everyone is struggling in their own way. When someone cuts us off in traffic, it's easy to feel anger rise up inside us. But if we stop and think for a moment, we might realize that the person in front of us could be in a hurry because of some personal crisis or a stressful situation. Their actions, while irritating, are not a personal attack on us. Cultivating compassion means realizing that we don't know what someone else is going through. Instead of reacting with anger, we can respond with understanding, or at the very least, with patience. Sometimes, it's easy to be compassionate towards others when we see them struggling. But what about when the person causing us anger is someone close to us, a family member, a friend, or a colleague? How do we find compassion in those moments? It starts with understanding that the people around us are not perfect. Just as we make mistakes, so do they. They have their own struggles, their own pain, and their own fears. Often, the way someone acts or speaks to us is more reflection of their internal struggles than it is about us. Think about a time when someone said or did something that made you angry. Now, think about why they might have acted that way. Were they stressed, tired, or dealing with their own fears and worries? When we try to understand the pain or challenges another person may be facing, it becomes easier to respond with compassion rather than anger. Of course, it's not always easy. When we're hurt, frustrated, or feel wronged, it's difficult to choose compassion in the heat of the moment. But this is where practice comes in. Like any skill, compassion grows stronger with time and effort. The more we practice it, the easier it becomes to respond with understanding, patience, and kindness, rather than with anger. One of the beautiful aspects of compassion is that it has the power to heal not just the person who is on the receiving end, but also the person who is practicing it. When we practice compassion, we create a sense of peace within ourselves. The anger that once filled our hearts begins to melt away, replaced by a deep sense of connection and understanding. It's like removing a heavy weight from our chest, freeing us from the burden of resentment and hostility. Buddhism teaches that we are all interconnected. When one person suffers, we all suffer. When one person is happy, we all share in that joy. By cultivating compassion, we are not only helping others, we are helping ourselves. It's a practice that leads to inner peace, a calm mind, and a heart that is open and ready to embrace the world with kindness. But how do we bring compassion into our everyday lives? It starts with small, simple actions. Maybe it's offering a kind word to someone who is having a tough day. Maybe it's listening patiently to someone's struggles without judgment. Perhaps it's forgiving someone who has wronged us, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because we deserve the peace that comes with letting go of anger. In moments when anger begins to rise within us, we can pause and take a deep breath. We can remind ourselves that we have the power to choose how we respond. We can choose to respond with compassion instead of anger, with patience instead of frustration, and with love instead of resentment. It's not always easy, but it's always possible. As you begin to incorporate compassion into your life, you'll notice that the hold anger has on you begins to loosen. Instead of feeling reactive and defensive, you'll feel more grounded and centered. Instead of being caught in the cycle of frustration, you'll find yourself at peace, even in the midst of challenges. And the best part? Compassion not only dissolves anger, but it also brings more love, joy, and harmony into your life. In the next part, we'll explore the practice of forgiveness, another powerful way to erase anger and cultivate peace. But for now, remember this: cultivating compassion isn't about being perfect. It's about making the choice, every day, to act with kindness and understanding, no matter what life throws your way. And in doing so, you will free yourself from the chains of anger and find a path to true peace. Practicing forgiveness, letting go of resentment. Forgiveness. It's such a simple word, but for many of us, it's one of the hardest things to do. We often hold on to grudges, thinking that by keeping them, we are somehow punishing the person who wronged us. But in reality, the only person we hurt by holding on to resentment is ourselves. In Buddhism, forgiveness is seen not as a gift to the person who wronged you, but as a gift to yourself. It is a way of releasing the heavy burden of anger, bitterness, and pain that weighs on your heart and mind. The moment you choose to forgive, you begin to free yourself from the chains that anger and resentment have wrapped around you. Let's take a moment to understand why we hold on to resentment in the first place. Often, when someone wrongs us, our natural reaction is to feel hurt, angry, and even betrayed. These feelings are perfectly normal. But what happens when we keep replaying those feelings over and over in our minds? The pain doesn't go away. It grows stronger, and we become stuck in a cycle of negative emotions. This cycle feeds anger and resentment, and it clouds our ability to see things clearly. Instead of allowing the situation to pass, we hold on to it, and that is where suffering begins. Buddha taught that suffering arises when we cling to the past, holding on to old wounds as if they define who we are. But the past is gone, and no amount of clinging will bring it back. Forgiveness is the key to releasing this attachment. When we forgive, we are not saying that what the other person did was okay, nor are we forgetting the wrong. We are simply choosing to release the emotional hold that it has on us. Imagine you are carrying a heavy backpack. Every time someone hurts you, you put a stone in that backpack. After a while, that backpack becomes so heavy that you can't stand up straight. The anger, the hurt, the resentment, they're all stones weighing you down. But when you forgive, it's like removing a stone from the backpack. Slowly, one by one, you lighten your load until you can walk freely once more. Forgiveness isn't something that happens overnight. It's a process, and it requires patience and self-compassion. In Buddhism, we understand that the path to forgiveness is not always easy. It requires us to look deeply within ourselves and confront the pain we are carrying. It's about recognizing that our anger and resentment are not serving us, and that by holding on to them, we are only prolonging our suffering. One powerful way to begin the process of forgiveness is through mindfulness. When we are mindful, we can observe our emotions without being controlled by them. If you are feeling anger or resentment, take a step back and ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What is the root of my pain? By shining the light of awareness on these emotions, we can begin to see them for what they truly are, temporary and fleeting. Take a deep breath and allow yourself to feel the emotions that are present. Don't suppress them, but don't let them control you either. Simply observe them. With time, you will begin to see that these feelings don't define you. They are just passing states of mind. You are more than your anger, more than your hurt. Another helpful practice is loving-kindness meditation, also known as metta in Buddhism. This practice involves silently repeating phrases that express goodwill and compassion, first for yourself, then for others. It may feel strange at first, especially if you are holding on to resentment, but this is exactly why it works. By offering kindness to those who have wronged you, you start to dissolve the walls of bitterness that have built up around your heart. You can start with simple phrases like, "May I be happy," "May I be peaceful," "May I be free from suffering." Once you have extended kindness to yourself, you can begin to direct it toward others. May name, be happy. May name, be peaceful. May name, be free from suffering. You can even extend this practice to people you may not like or who have hurt you. This is not about condoning their actions. It's about freeing yourself from the grip of resentment. Forgiveness also requires us to let go of the need for justice or retribution. We often think that forgiveness means that the other person gets off easy, that they don't face consequences for their actions. But in Buddhism, we understand that seeking revenge only prolongs our own suffering. Holding on to anger keeps us tied to the person who hurt us, while forgiveness releases us from that attachment. It is a powerful way of taking back control over our own lives, our own happiness. Another key aspect of forgiveness is understanding that everyone is imperfect. We all make mistakes. No one is free from the tendency to hurt others, whether intentionally or unintentionally. The person who wronged you may have been acting out of their own pain, ignorance, or suffering. In many cases, people hurt others because they are struggling within themselves. When we begin to understand this, forgiveness becomes easier. We realize that the person who hurt us is not so different from ourselves. We all have flaws. We all experience pain. And we are all doing the best we can. Forgiveness is not about excusing bad behavior or tolerating mistreatment. It's about recognizing that we don't need to carry the emotional weight of someone else's actions. When we forgive, we make the conscious decision to stop allowing their actions to continue affecting us. We stop letting them have power over our emotions and our peace of mind. Sometimes, forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It may be that the other person is no longer in your life, or you may need to set boundaries to protect yourself. That's okay. Forgiveness is an internal process, and it doesn't always require that the other person is part of the equation. It's about finding peace within yourself, regardless of the circumstances or the people involved. Forgiveness also has a profound effect on your own well-being. Studies have shown that holding on to anger and resentment can have negative impacts on your physical and mental health. It can lead to stress, anxiety, and even illness. When you forgive, you are releasing that stress and allowing yourself to heal. You are giving yourself the gift of peace. One final aspect of forgiveness in Buddhism is the understanding that it is an ongoing practice. You may forgive someone today, only to find that the anger resurfaces again tomorrow. This is completely normal. Forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's a continual process. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. And over time, you will find that your capacity to forgive grows stronger, just like any other practice. In conclusion, forgiveness is not just a way to heal your heart. It is a way to transform your life. It is an act of freedom, of letting go, of moving forward. When you forgive, you release the past and create space for new possibilities. You free yourself from the grip of anger and resentment, and you make room for peace, love, and joy. So, take a deep breath and remember, forgiveness is for you. It's a way of freeing yourself from the past and stepping into a future of peace. Choose to forgive, not for the other person, but for your own peace of mind. And know that with each act of forgiveness, you are growing stronger, wiser, and more at peace with yourself and the world around you. Meditation techniques for releasing anger. Anger is like a storm that stirs up the calm of the ocean. It clouds our thoughts, makes our hearts race, and leaves us feeling unsettled. But just as a storm eventually passes, so too can anger, if we learn the right way to let it go. One of the most powerful ways to release anger is through meditation. Meditation is not about pushing your feelings away. It's about sitting with them, understanding them, and eventually letting them pass. Through Buddhist teachings, we can learn meditation techniques that help us release anger and create a peaceful mind. In Buddhism, meditation is the practice of training the mind to stay focused, calm, and clear. When you meditate, you allow yourself to sit in stillness and observe your thoughts without judgment. This is important because anger often arises from deep-rooted beliefs and attachments that we don't even realize we have. Through meditation, we can begin to see these patterns more clearly. The simple meditation practice you can start with is called mindfulness meditation. The goal of mindfulness meditation is to bring your attention fully to the present moment without dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. This technique helps to break the cycle of negative thinking that fuels anger. When anger arises during meditation, instead of trying to push it away, simply observe it. Notice where it arises in your body. Is your heart racing? Do you feel tension in your shoulders? Just acknowledge these sensations and let them be. Let's begin by finding a comfortable sitting position. Sit upright, with your back straight, but not rigid. Close your eyes gently and take a few deep breaths. As you inhale, feel your chest expand. As you exhale, feel your body relax. Focus on your breath, the rise and fall of your chest. The breath is a reminder of the present moment, and as you follow the rhythm of your breathing, you bring your attention back to the here and now. Now, bring your awareness to your body. How does it feel right now? Are there areas of tension? Relax those areas, one by one. Let go of any tightness and breathe into the spaces that feel tense. Now, let your mind be present with whatever is arising. If anger comes up, don't try to deny it or push it away. Instead, notice it. Acknowledge its presence. It's a part of you, but it doesn't define you. You are the observer, not the emotion. Feel where the anger is stored in your body. Is it in your chest? Your stomach? Just sit with it for a moment. Don't judge it, just allow it to be. As you sit with your anger, notice how it changes. Often, emotions like anger are intense at first, but start to fade when we give them space. With practice, you will notice that anger doesn't last forever. It is like a wave that rises, peaks, and eventually crashes. Let the anger come, let it pass. You don't need to hold on to it. Each time you sit in meditation and observe your anger without reacting to it, you create space between yourself and the emotion. This is the first step in letting it go. Another meditation technique that helps to release anger is loving-kindness meditation, or metta. This meditation involves sending positive thoughts and well wishes to yourself and others. When we're angry, it's easy to focus on the person or situation that triggered the emotion. Loving-kindness meditation helps to shift our focus from the source of our anger to compassion and goodwill. To practice loving-kindness meditation, sit comfortably and take a few deep breaths. Start by sending love to yourself. Repeat silently, "May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from suffering." As you repeat these phrases, feel the warmth of kindness and compassion filling your heart. Next, expand your circle of loving kindness to others. Start with someone you love deeply and repeat, "May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering." Then, expand to someone neutral in your life, someone you don't know well. Repeat the same phrases for them. Finally, send loving kindness to someone you're angry with. It might feel challenging at first, but remember, loving kindness is not about condoning harmful actions. It's about wishing the person freedom from suffering, just as you wish that for yourself. Loving kindness meditation softens the edges of anger. It helps to replace feelings of resentment and bitterness with compassion and understanding. As you repeat the phrases, you may begin to notice your anger dissolve. It's not about forgetting or excusing the wrongs that have been done. It's about freeing yourself from the hold of anger and resentment. Through loving kindness, you create space for healing, not just for others, but for yourself as well. In Buddhism, there is also the practice of breathing into anger. This is a technique that involves using your breath to transform the energy of anger. When you're feeling angry, take a deep breath and imagine that you are breathing in peace and calm. As you exhale, imagine releasing the anger from your body. With each breath, feel the anger melting away. Breathe in calm, breathe out anger. With time, this practice can help you release anger before it builds up. It's also important to remember that meditation is not a quick fix. It's a lifelong practice that requires patience and consistency. The more you meditate, the more you will notice how your relationship with anger changes. Meditation helps to rewire your brain. The more you practice observing your emotions without getting caught up in them, the easier it becomes to let go of anger when it arises. Finally, remember that the key to meditation is non-attachment. Anger is just an emotion, and like all emotions, it comes and goes. When we are attached to our anger, we let it define us. We allow it to control our actions, our thoughts, and our relationships. But when we practice meditation, we learn to let go of this attachment. We learn to see anger as just another passing cloud in the sky of our consciousness. As you continue your meditation practice, you'll find that the space between the trigger and your reaction grows wider. The anger may still come, but you won't be controlled by it. You'll have the space to respond with clarity, understanding, and compassion instead of reacting impulsively. This is the power of meditation. It teaches you how to let go of anger, and in doing so, it helps you create a peaceful, centered life. Through meditation, we not only release anger but also cultivate a greater sense of equanimity, a state of mental calmness and balance, especially in the face of difficult situations. Equanimity helps us stay grounded, no matter what challenges life brings. It allows us to face anger, fear, sadness, and joy with the same level of calmness. This is the ultimate goal of meditation, to cultivate a mind that is steady and unshaken, no matter what arises. Meditation is a lifelong journey. Every time you sit, you take another step toward a life of peace, compassion, and freedom from anger. Through patience, practice, and commitment, you will discover that you don't have to be controlled by your emotions. You can become the master of your mind, and through that mastery, you will find true peace. Conclusion and lifelong journey. Embracing peace beyond anger. As we come to the end of this journey, let's take a moment to reflect. We have walked through the teachings of Buddhism on anger, understood its roots, and explored the practices that can help us free ourselves from it. But now, the question remains, what does life look like once we have erased anger for good? Is it truly possible to live in peace, no matter what life throws at us? The answer, my friend, is yes. It is possible. In fact, it is the true nature of the human mind to be calm, clear, and at peace. Anger is like a storm. It arises suddenly, with intensity, but it always passes. And just as the sky remains unchanged by the storm, so too can your mind remain unchanged by anger. This is not something that happens overnight, but with daily practice, it can become your reality. Buddhism teaches us that our minds are like a muddy pond. When anger, like a stone, is thrown into the water, the surface becomes turbulent, and we can no longer see clearly. But when we allow the water to settle, the mud sinks to the bottom, and the water becomes clear again. The same is true for our minds. When we let go of anger and give our minds space to settle, we are left with clarity, wisdom, and peace. The key, as we have seen throughout this journey, is to practice mindfulness and awareness. It is in the present moment that we can notice when anger arises. By simply acknowledging it without judgment, we begin to disarm it. From there, we can gently redirect our energy, cultivating compassion, understanding, and forgiveness. These practices are like tools that help us clean the mud from the surface of our minds. But even after we learn these techniques, life will still present challenges. There will be times when anger tries to creep in, when situations seem unfair, when people disappoint us, or when we feel misunderstood. And that's okay. The goal is not to eliminate all anger forever. It is to recognize it, understand it, and respond with wisdom, rather than reacting impulsively. Every time we practice this, we are strengthening our ability to stay calm and centered. Let's take a moment to reflect on how far you've come. You've learned about the roots of anger, how it harms both yourself and others, and the Buddhist teachings on letting go of it. You've seen the power of compassion, forgiveness, and mindfulness in helping you cultivate peace. Now, the journey doesn't end here. It continues, day by day, moment by moment. True freedom comes when we stop trying to control everything around us and instead focus on controlling how we respond. The world may continue to challenge us, but our response is ours to choose. And when we choose peace, we invite a calm presence into our lives that is unshakable. With each passing day, our inner peace deepens and the grip of anger loosens. As you move forward, remember that this path is not about perfection, it's about progress. You may stumble, you may feel frustrated, but that's okay. Every step you take toward peace is a victory, and each moment of mindfulness is a step closer to a life free of anger. Even the smallest effort you make matters. Now, let's take a deep breath together. Inhale deeply, hold for a moment, and exhale slowly. Feel the calmness that comes with the breath. This simple act, practiced throughout the day, will remind you of your ability to stay grounded. It will remind you that you are always in control of how you respond to the world. The power of the mind is limitless. As you continue your practice, you will find that peace is not a distant dream, but a reality you can experience in every moment. The more you nurture this peace, the more it will grow, transforming not just your anger, but every aspect of your life. And remember, this is a lifelong journey. There will be days when it feels like you've made no progress, and there will be days when you feel like you've conquered the world. Both are part of the path. Embrace each moment and be kind to yourself along the way. You are human, and you are learning. As we conclude this video, I want to thank you for joining me on this path of wisdom and peace. The teachings of Buddhism are not just theories to ponder, they are practices to live by. And as you continue to let go of anger, you will find that you are not only transforming yourself, but also the world around you. Peace is contagious. When you radiate calm, you inspire others to do the same. So, let this be a reminder that the journey does not end here. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep growing. And if you ever feel yourself slipping, simply come back to the breath. It is always there, waiting to guide you back to peace. Before we end, I have one final request. If you have found this video helpful, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Wisdom Woven. There are so many views, but only 0.2% of people subscribe. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue to bring you content that can change your life. So please, subscribe and share the wisdom with others. May you live with peace, love, and understanding. Until next time, keep walking the path of wisdom